Hello, subscribers and others. It's David Hoffman, and you're about to see a series of clips I've put together on the generation gap. As you know, I'm really interested in the 1950s and the 1960s, the time I grew up, and also because in 1989 I got a chance to make a television series on the 1960s called Making Sense of the 60s. So these films were made in the early 60s. I was a cameraman. I didn't actually edit this. And what you're going to see is the generation gap. What's a generation gap? Well, there was a generation gap, and it involved everything. I mean, the young people separated from the previous generation, fashion, music, style, language, what they liked, what their values were, work in the workplace, family life. I know how many of you are now upset with the results, and there's a lot to be upset about. It didn't go perfectly for sure, and there's a lot of problems because of it. But this generation gap really existed at that time, and you're going to see this in these clips, some of the stuff that people felt of the different generations. Just remember Bob Dylan's comment at the time, don't trust anyone over 30. Now you might ask yourself, today, do we have a generation gap? I think we do. I'm watching it on YouTube. The current generations are called digital natives. They were born in the digital era. And they are, in my view, very, very different from the generations that came before, even in the way that they think. I don't know how you feel about that, but as a millennial or younger, how different do you feel you are from the generation that raised you? And the generation before that, my generation, your grandparents. When you get done, tell me what you think. I'd be really interested. Is there a generation gap today? And is it kind of the same as what you're hearing and seeing in these video clips?
My dad is real quiet, and I hardly ever, I'm fairly close, but I never talk too much to him.
When you go to a party, you don't tell them exactly what happened, because then they'll really get mad, and they'll start telling you how you're so bad and everything like that.
Just getting away from your parents relieves a lot of the pressure.
To distract. They're not necessarily all bad, but they're more distracting influences, and it's accepted that most children do take part in a lot of these, and as a result, why probably the influence of the parent is somewhat diluted. You just don't, you don't have them under your control for as much as perhaps when I was in high school.
Almost every night there's a meeting of this club or that club, or the Y has something, or there's church basketball, there's cheerleading practice, there's speech tournaments. There's all of this sort of thing going on constantly.
Well, my parents they would kill me if I didn't go to college.
Your parents are constantly asking you what colleges you want to go to, and if you offer a suggestion of a college that isn't in the Ivy League category, they say, well, why not Harvard or why not Yale?
Ever since about the 7th grade, you've been hearing it just every day, just drummed into you year after year after year. And I think most kids don't really take it too seriously until they actually get into the position where it's time to file applications and everything else. And then, especially during the senior year, the kids around me, it's awful. People just walk around very nervous and upset all the time and unsure of themselves, not knowing where they're going.
I could just throw her through a wall sometimes because
I am very materialistic, and I think that it's a very materialistic world.
Even though it is a materialistic world, you've got to sort of be a little bit detached too, because how are you ever going to know what you really think and what you really want and believe?
In a couple of days, I'll find out my something. It takes so long to find out what your something really is. You know, you just keep going and going and going, and you say, well, my something will be here sooner or later. You know, and it's really pretty good. You have a good time waiting for it. Anyway.
You get out of college, so what are you going to do? You don't know. You've got the Army, you've got job choices, you can go to graduate school, but what do you do? They're not bad choices, none of them are. But it's the idea of where can you go? What's the best choice? And you don't know.
They're very casual and informal with each other. I've noticed some boy comes over to a girl and he want to go to the beach in a scooter. He says yes. He takes her there. That doesn't mean he has a date with her. When he gets there, he says, I'm happy I met you, Tatar, and he flips on. She does too. My daughter's told me a lot of what goes on because she's with us. But I think they're very casual and very courteous. They seem to be like one great big fraternity.
We have evolved an hypothesis, and it is simply that. We feel that they are going to find their identity through consumption. So where in the past we have been making products for young people as against old people, middle class people as against perhaps higher class people, the suggestion is that we need to refine this further into a more segmented market. Not only do we need products for young people, but for sophisticated young people as against perhaps home-loving young people or literal-minded young people.
So much for the ways. They come here to be seen by other people rather than just to learn.
They're just trying to get away from too much control, too much being held down. I guess all ages are like that when they reach teenage. But these days it's even worse because you got so much hanging over your head. You have to worry about it, school, the job, social life, getting away from the parents. They're afraid to face it. I mean, it's just rotten. The whole generation is just completely mashed out. They just don't care.
People lack. It's not that they lack concern, but they lack enough concern to really look at a problem and figure out what might be an answer, like the Cold War and all that sort of thing. They're concerned in that it might affect them physically, or it might affect their fun, but that's the extent of it, you know.
I really don't feel that you take the time even to tell me anything that you're doing during the day to make me feel at all close to you. I can't just see you on Saturday night and Sunday and really feel part of your life.
Well, I just feel that you've got better things to worry about here at home than to worry about the problems that I encounter during the day. Why add more to your day and problems? Granted, you might want to be a part of these problems, but there isn't anything that you can do. You're concerned enough about the home and about having things perfect.
If I don't know anything about you from 6 o'clock in the morning until 12:30 or 1 o'clock at night when you come home, what can I say? How can I feel close to you? How can I know what your problems are? This is all the things that I do, the little things that not necessarily Johnny does, the things that are interesting you might want to know about and so forth. But
well, this is all I want to
hear.
Things like that's all that's
the
interesting.
dishwasher breaking or whatever, little problems that I have, repairmen coming or people coming to the door and these little things.
Well, you should be home even if you don't do a thing.
There are nights and there are times when it gets to be just week after week after week of being away, and there are times when you really should just forget some community activity, I feel, and just come home, and even if you don't do a thing, just to be here. And just to say, now, I'm completely yours, and this is it.